I used to play hoops,
Yeah.
a lot of hoops.
Yeah.
I grew up, that's all I did was a jock, and basketball was my sport. And in 2001, I was the Gatorade Player of the Year in the entire state. So I really, really loved the game, still do. But what happened is a kid recently by the name of Baylor Shireman went to a smaller school in the Summit League, I think it was South Dakota State, and then entered the transfer portal, went to Creighton, which Creighton's a huge basketball powerhouse. And then from there he got drafted by the Boston Celtics. This is a kid from a 3,000 person town that was just drafted in the first round of the Boston Celtics. Now Nebraska in itself never really ever has any basketball players come out, ever. And not only did he come out of Nebraska, he's a white kid, but he was drafted in the first round out of this tiny small town that I'm from.
Hey guys, thanks so much for joining. This is Andrew Hathaway with the Big Hitters Pod. Today we're going to be joined by Micah Kohls, who owns quite a few single families, multifamily, boutique hotels. He's achieved financial and time freedom through real estate, so we're going to pick his brain and see what makes him tick. Thanks for joining. What do you most want to talk about?
Yeah, relationships is always fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Start with that. Like, who are you? What do you do? And all about your family and yourself.
Well, I've been in Denver now, the metro, for already 20 years now, which is where I met my wife. She's a native, but I'm originally from a small town in Nebraska, like 3,000 people, called Aurora, Nebraska.
Nuh-uh.
Yeah. And usually when people ask where I'm from, I'll say like, well, are you familiar with Nebraska? If you are, then perhaps I'll say Grand Island. If they're familiar with Grand Island, then I can get a little more granular.
How often is it you say, are you familiar with Nebraska? And someone says, oh yeah, for sure.
50-50. Yeah. Depending. I mean, there's a lot of transplants from Nebraska that have made their way to Colorado.
Yeah.
So the weather's better, and there's more
surrounding state, right?
There's more to do.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So, fun fact about Nebraska,
I'm ready.
or even Aurora, where I'm from, I used to play hoops, a lot of hoops.
Yeah.
I grew up, that's all I did was a jock, and basketball was my sport. And in 2001, I was the Gatorade Player of the Year in the entire state. So I really, really loved the game, still do. But what happened is a kid recently by the name of Baylor Shireman went to a smaller school in the Summit League, I think it was South Dakota State, and then entered the transfer portal, went to Creighton, which Creighton's a huge basketball powerhouse. And then from there he got drafted by the Boston Celtics. This is a kid from a 3,000 person town that was just drafted in the first round of the Boston Celtics. Now, Nebraska in itself never really ever has any basketball players come out, ever. And not only did he come out of Nebraska, he's a white kid, but he was drafted in the first round out of this tiny small town that I'm from. So
Score one for Nebraska.
I am a lost and forgotten hooper. Now that this kid has taken all the swag and
I see.
Yeah, I had to wrestle with that a little bit.
Yeah.
Because,
Your record and stuff like that.
I mean, he's taken everything.
Yeah.
He's like one of the most popular guys in the entire state, or sports ever.
Uh-huh.
He's like famous. And
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's wild.
Makes me think I should move to Nebraska and I could be famous for something like faster.
Big fish in a small pond. That can happen. A lot easier there than here.
Tell us about, start family, kids, like whatever you want to share.
Yeah.
And then I'll ask about real stuff.
Yeah, so I married a native. I went to Colorado Christian University. That's how I ended up here. And then we got married young. We were I was 22, she was 21. And pretty early on, I was like, okay, now I've got to provide for this gal. And so I started getting very entrepreneurial. I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and that kind of sprung me into action. And from there, I started a carpet cleaning business with a buddy that is still doing that. He's done amazingly well. But from there, I got into real estate finance. And once I got latched onto real estate, I started to kind of just run with that. But my wife and I live in Broomfield. We have 5 kids, 14, 12, 10, and then twin boys that are almost 6.
Mm-hmm.
And she's from Arvada. I'm, small town Nebraska, and we're pretty rooted here. This is our home. As much as I don't like it's less than business friendly here in Colorado, but we're rooted by family and friends, and we're not going anywhere.
Yes,
it's home. Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us about the real estate stuff. So you have boutique hotels, multifamily stuff, some single family stuff.
Yeah, and I'd say flipping has always been kind of my core action, and that started in 2009 with the Great Financial Crisis. Prior to that, I was on the finance side, and so when everything just got hit hard and all the foreclosures started happening, I kind of swapped over to the investment side and started buying in bulk at foreclosure sales. And so that created a lot of action. And from that action, then I got it.
Where does one go for something like that? Courthouse?
Yeah. Yeah. It's not like at the steps. Now, there are places in other states where you bid on the steps. But the county courthouses have rooms set up for...
I have no idea where I even start. So did someone say, hey, you should come do these things at the courthouse, and we're buying properties for pennies on the dollar?
I mean, if you want to get super into the weeds on it, there was a law that changed in 2008 that made it easier to go acquire real estate at these auctions without getting redeemed. So you could buy a position or buy a lien that had foreclosed at the sale, and the homeowner that was foreclosed on still had a right to come back and redeem their home up to a long period of time. I don't remember exactly now, but they even had up to a couple years perhaps to come back and redeem their home out of foreclosure after it's sold to an investor. So it wasn't super profitable to take that risk. I mean, you could get a small amount of interest on your position during that time from the time that you got redeemed, but it wasn't super investable because people would get taken out a lot. I mean, you could go find a rich uncle or something like that to go help you get your home back. So there were a lot of rights, but that right changed. And then basically what happened was then it cut the window down to 2 weeks. So once you bought at foreclosure sale, you had title to the property down from 2 years to 2 weeks. And then that kind of opened up the doors to go in and create a business out of buying these properties and flipping them. When that's what we were doing, we were flipping.
Was it some of it just the timing with the recession that made it easy to do on a larger scale?
I'd say since I got entrepreneurial at a really young age, even before the Great Financial Crisis, there were these fast and loose kind of loans that you hear about. They're called subprime loans.
Yeah.
And so I was able, because I focused for a period of time on building my credit, I built my credit up to somewhere in the high 700s because I knew that was important. And with a good credit score, I was able to buy rental properties with 100% financing. And how they did it was a combination of 2 loans. You would get an 80% first and then a 20% second loan to make up the 100% of the purchase funding that you needed to buy property. I did that a few times. Those properties, I think I cut my teeth on going into 2008 when the financial crisis happened. So maybe I was just dangerous enough to when things really started to heat up and there were a lot of distressed properties to buy. I sort of knew what I was doing, but I was still in my 20s and I had a lot to learn And so you said a lot of it was, I guess,
not all of it, but you said you did. I think I remember at a lunch one time you said you had a partner that was helping you with them. So
I had a funding partner and I had an operational partner.
yeah,
So there were technically three of us that made up an entity that we used to buy and sell.
and how many did you buy?
Like in 2009, before, there was a lot of competition at the sales because it took a while for word to get out about these things. We did 105 flips that year. And I think when people think of flips, they think of fix and flips. This was not the model. This was more of a clean and flip model. There were so many properties on the market at the time that banks were taking properties back that didn't go to sale at the auction. They would take them back into their sort of REO department, and then they would list them for sale, but they would do nothing to these properties.
Yeah.
So, I mean, literally you're walking through these properties and there's sometimes trash from the previous owner still in there. There's spider webs. There's, you're inhaling like mold and dust. And all we would do, our model was to go in and clean them, make them presentable so you could walk your wife and kids through and not get sick or whatever. And then we would list them like just a little bit lower than where the banks listed their less than, clean properties that we had available.
Mm-hmm.
And that model worked for a long time, but we were able to do a lot of volume. I think if you were doing full scale fix and flips, like kind of what things have evolved into now, you couldn't do that kind of volume, not without a huge.
I was going to ask, does that model as it still exists today?
That model for cleaning and flipping?
No,
or buying at the
courthouse and buying I don't know anything about real estate.
You can still buy at the courthouse.
Yeah.
You can.
Just what is it? Like it's just a wild west?
I'll just give you sort of where it came from, where it is now.
Yeah.
There used to be, like for instance, Adams County.
Yeah.
There used to be perhaps like 125 properties that would go a week. Now in Adams County, there's like maybe 3 a week.
Yeah.
So that's how much has changed.
Yeah. It was pretty competitive. That
is. Yeah. It's a lot harder to lose your home now than it was before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. If you don't mind me asking, the sum total, and you were just talking to me before this, but what's the value of all of the different things that you kind of property wise?
Well, I think the core fix and flipping business that I was doing created a lot of action. And from there, anybody that was in that line of work or in real estate that was an actual stakeholder rode a wave from 2008 to, really since rates started going up, things have kind of stopped over the last couple of years. They're kind of in a stuck zone in real estate right now. But there was a huge wave of write-up of appreciation over the last 15 years. And so along the way, I was doing, when we were buying single family, we were buying multifamily, we were buying commercial, all these different asset classes within real estate. Some of you flipped out of them, some of you kept. And so it created just a lot of action along the way to where I kind of slowly built a cash flowing portfolio. And then once your snowball gets big enough, you can start to sort of, have some manicured growth where you want to. Mm-hmm. And you're just sort of now you're kind of just managing cash flow and managing cost of capital. Mm-hmm. Now, in the last 5 years, my focus has been more on hospitality as a sector of real estate than, anything else. Like multifamily was kind of where I came from, and flipping was where I came from prior to that. Mm-hmm. But we have a property management company for short-term rentals. So it's not long-term rentals, it's nightly rentals. So we manage people's Airbnbs. This company is called Elevate B&B. We've been around for 5 years. And so we started kind of cutting our teeth with my stuff, my properties. And I stumbled into this 5 or 6 years ago. I had a friend tell me that he was doing really well with an Airbnb in the middle of Wheat Ridge or about or whatever it was. And I was like, okay, I've got a property in Wheat Ridge I can't sell because the market kind of twists and turns, and there's just a timing thing sometimes where there's a lull. And I decided to hang on to this property. And I had met a designer at the same time, kind of coincidentally. And I said, hey, just go in, outfit it, and we'll onboard it to Airbnb and see how it does. So I was just sort of being opportunistic. And it did really, really well out of the gate. And then as time went on, I was managing it in my office with my staff, small staff. And I kind of got to the point where I was like, okay, this is not really my core business. I'm a fix and flipper. I want to do deals. And so we hired a local property management company to come in and do it for us. And it kind of flopped. I mean, it just took a turn that we weren't really comfortable with. So from that point, I was like, wow, if this company is one of the higher sort of referred property managers for nightly rentals in the Denver area, then there's probably a business here. And so I hired a couple key people specifically for that business. Mm-hmm. And then from there, we built a real property management company in which I started converting some of my doors, some of my properties over to nightly rentals. And we learned the business on my stuff. We hired a mentor to come in and kind of teach us the business because I didn't know enough on my own to teach my own staff about the business. So we kind of leveraged a relationship and a mentor to come in and sort of give us the playbook. Mm-hmm. And then from there, we eventually started managing for other people. And so right now, I'd say that's one of the areas where I'm looking to grow. And then like you mentioned, I'm doing more boutique hotels. So I have some in the sort of Estes Park area. And that market is great. It's really seasonal. So I'm looking to sort of add to that portfolio of boutique hotels and kind of find other markets that complement that market to kind of like average out the seasonality across the entire year.
How many of the hotels do you own now?
Just three.
Three?
Yeah.
And are you looking for more?
Yeah.
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 You were blowing my mind the other day on the way you're using like AI to price night by night, like a variable pricing. Walk me through like that. How does that work? Am I divulging some sort of secret?
No, I don't think so.
All right.
I don't think so.
All right. It's what I'm just assuming it's what the industry does.
Well, there's like whole companies that are, have built algorithms that, they've turned into software and now, you can go, they've licensed that software and you can sort of buy the software or lease it. And then you have a pricing algorithm that you lean heavily on. But we're actually trying to build even further into that to give, my product, my portfolio, and then the people that we manage for an even increased competitive edge we just hired our revenue manager. So it gets down to even as granular as like Taylor Swift is coming to town and we need to, adjust rates accordingly for such an event. Right.
So normal night at Micah's Boutique Hotel, how much?
Oh, let's say $150 a night.
Okay. And then Taylor Swift comes to town, how much?
Like $400 a night.
Dang.
Yeah. And it's a big economic driver.
The tool just tells you like what
it does a lot of that. Yeah. Yeah. It does a lot of that. I mean, AI is the reason I like the space is because AI is here. It's coming. It's going to continue to sort of multiply and grow. Historically, boutique hotels have been managed by owner-operators. And a lot of times, these folks will live on-site at the property because they have to, right? Now that's changing. Like, for instance, we're under contract on a boutique hotel in South Carolina, in Myrtle Beach.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So I was sort of in the market researching. Had never been there, but I walked down the street to another hotel. And when I walked in, I was faced with a screen that had a real live person's face on it. Now, he was somewhere else. He said he was in California. I don't know where he was. But he was interfacing with me. So he engaged me. Said, hey, how can I help you? Whoa, okay, I'm talking to somebody live. And then from there, he could, give me keys, towels, whatever I needed, right? Whereas, like, we're coming from a place of, like, fixed pricing where, like, there's no pricing algorithm. It's like, oh, it's the fall. Okay, you're going to pay $200 a night. Or, it's the winter. You're going to pay $150 a night. Like, those are set pricing, right? And maybe that changes like 3% a year, but there's no fluctuation further than that. Whereas now, like, how airlines price their seats. I mean, it's very dynamic in the way that airlines, are cutthroat around how they price out. Like, we're sort of following that trend in the boutique hotel space. But back to the screen, like, what you could do, if I can explain this right.
I'm ready.
All right. With AI, you could image somebody's real face, right? And they could, if need be, interface with that customer. Otherwise, AI could do it with the image of somebody's face. And then somebody real could come into that conversation without you as a guest ever knowing.
Yeah.
And they could be doing that across 10 different properties,
Are you
right?
latching onto that?
That's something that's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really exciting, right? That, like, I would say more because with these smaller boutique
By the way,
hotels,
Travis is not real. He's actually AI.
with these boutique hotels, I mean, like, they don't have the scale to have like a full-time GM,
Yeah.
right? Where you're going to pay like a GM like $80,000 to $120,000 a year when you only have like 25 rooms.
Yeah.
Like, that's just not in the budget.
Yeah.
So you did have to be an owner-operator in order for the numbers to work. You can make a nice little living doing that, if that's what you wanted to do. But now, once it hits institutional grade and you can make it more passive, well, these hotels become more valuable the more passive they are.
Mm-hmm.
And you know anything about cap rates?
Not a lot.
All right. It's like a capitalization rate of like over a period of time, how quickly you can get paid back on the total capital invested. So, like, what this will end up doing, well, AI will do specifically in this space. I don't know how it'll impact the rest of the industry, but like, it'll suppress cap rates where, like, historically as an owner operator, if you were going to buy a hotel, you might pay like a 12 cap, which means you would want a higher return on a boutique hotel than you would want on a institutional grade, scalable, 200 key hotel, or 200 key plus, 1,000 key hotel, right? That might have a lower cap rate where you take a lower return, let's say like 7%. So we're talking about like a 5% gap between more of a passive institutional grade hotel versus like a boutique, hands-on, intensive, owner-operated, smaller 25-unit hotel.
Yeah.
Right? So with AI, you can get rid of perhaps some of the staff that you would otherwise need. And once it becomes more passive, that cap rate comes down. So it might go from like a 12 to a 10 to an 8, the more passive it is. The lower the cap rate, the more valuable the asset is, right? Because it trades at a lower yield, higher value.
Explains to me like I'm a kid, which I appreciate.
The focus of this podcast is time, energy, relational, financial freedom, right? You've obviously used real estate as an instrument to achieve those things. I guess maybe walk us through like what freedom means for you and what were the hacks or things that you were able to use to get there?
Well, I mean, it's as simple. I mean, I think being able to sort of leverage even something like you're doing is hiring a VA, right? You're trading dollars, really. It's like once you hone in on what the value of your time is worth, well, then it makes sense to go ahead and find that arbitrage in perhaps finding somebody that can do your skill, a portion of what you do, perhaps better at a lower cost. And so if you can trade on that, I think that's what it in effect creates some of that freedom, right? Yeah. So, I mean, now having a support staff that you can like delegate some of your tasks to, and just being able to cycle things off your plate, um, it's relieving, right? It's like, it's when you're doing it all on your own, it can create quite a burden.
Yeah.
And so, I wouldn't say like I'm an exceptional delegator, but I do look for ways in which I can. And I think it's important to be able to get good at delegating, because there's a lot of times where I just feel like my staff, they're better at certain things than I am. And I think you have to extend trust in order to get yourself in the right position there. And you can get burned. I mean, you can get hurt that way. And I've been hurt that way. But you don't know until you jump off. And then once you can kind of, entrust that level of responsibility to somebody and they prove themselves, you're going to create something valuable. But a lot of people hold on to things with like kung fu grip, and there are certain things that I still hold on to, like
the dry needling.
I would say like, I definitely want to be able to go to bed with inbox zero. Like that's something that I've always done. I don't know why. There's something.
That's good to know. I'm gonna mess with you now. I'm gonna send you like
for sure
else tonight.
But hey, there's something.
Incredibly long to-do list.
There's something satisfying about hitting the delete button, though.
Yeah.
I like hitting the delete button.
I like that.
It's like, oh, that was easy.
Yeah.
And just.
I've been deleting meetings lately. That's my new hack. I'm like, I said yes to this, but it's actually not that important. So.
Yeah, I'm actually taking more meetings.
You are
now. Yeah. There's a
You're
period
clone Micah.
There's a period of time there where I was like, I can't do, like, it just doesn't make any sense. And then lately I'm like, okay, if I want to grow and I want to expand upon what I'm doing, then I'm open to taking a few more meetings every week. Cause I do get asked for meetings a lot and it can be tough to pin down time to do it, but I'm prioritizing it now.
I like that.
Yeah. There's seasons. There's seasons of times where it makes more sense than others. I'm in a decent season where I have a business that I want to leverage.
Yeah.
And so part of that is just marketing and awareness, getting a little bit more interface in.
How can people learn more about your thing? So Elevate B&B.
Elevate B&B. Elevate dash B&B. Yeah.
So if there was a big hitter with a bunch of Airbnbs, they should go to that website.
That would be ideal. Yeah. We'd love to.
In Colorado.
We'd like to manage for another one of me, if possible.
There's only one of you. Yeah.
No, there's guys that are doing it really big. It's a growing and maturing space.
Yeah.
A lot of people have jumped in. Small time, right? In the percentages, like the market share of people is a lot of people just doing onesie twosie type stuff. But there are some whales out there, some bigger players in the game that need better management, need better resources, and we would be a good fit for those folks.
Thank you so much for joining us. Guys, you've been here with the Big Hitters Pod. Micah Kohls was our guest. The vision and mission of Virtual Assist, which is my company, is to free small business owners up to live in their sweet spot. We do that with AI. We do that with virtual assistants. Micah is an example of someone using both of those things. And yeah, thanks so much for joining us.
Cool. You're welcome.
Good stuff.